Welcome back. Thank you for staying tuned. This is an interesting conversation, and I do encourage you to stay locked in. This one is all about Belize joining regional discussions for livestock development, and particularly in the Selva Maya biodiversity area, and we'll talk about it. Joining us for this conversation is Dr. Luciano Chi, who's a regenerative agriculture specialist for the Nature Conservancy Belize. We also have Mr. Bellarmino Esquivel, who's a principal agricultural coordinator at the Ministry of Agriculture. Excuse me. And last but certainly not least, Mr. William Usher, Chief Executive Officer at the Belize Livestock Producers Association. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's a pleasure having you all on set this morning to have this important discussion. Let's start with a background of this discussion and the purpose behind it. Dr. Chi?
Okay, good morning. Thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to come and discuss one of the important issues within the agriculture sector in Belize regarding livestock. So this week we are having a very good discussion at the trinational level, including Belize, Guatemala, and Mexico, because we share a common place in terms of the Selva Maya. I think that with our rich biodiversity, the amount of forest that we have within Belize, I think that it is a great opportunity for us to pool resources and to work in collaboration with our Mexican and Guatemalan counterpart, specifically in addressing one of the major challenges within our region, which is the transformation of the livestock sector within the Selva Maya into a sector that is environmentally friendly. It is sustainable in the long term, but most important, providing that opportunity to the livestock producers within the region. So during these 3 days, we're going to be having the participation of the major stakeholders from each of the country. I mean, stakeholders that are important in decision making and in also advancing the livestock agenda within the region. So we have livestock stakeholders from Belize, from Guatemala, coming together for a common purpose. As I mentioned, advancing livestock into a more regenerative, sustainable, and environmentally friendly sector.
Mr. Usher, if I could bring you into the conversation as we continue to lay the foundation, what does the relationship look like currently between livestock producers in Belize and Belize's portion of the Selva Maya forest?
That that portion of the Selva Maya is on the northern side of Belize, and majority of the cattle production is being produced between Cayo and Orange Walk. So I would say that's about 75 to 80% of the cattle production in that area. So that relationship is certainly very, very close in relation to what we do near and within the Selva Maya.
Interesting. And in terms of so cattle farmers or livestock producers are very reliant or heavily reliant on this space, you're saying?
Well, it's not that they are reliant on the space, but they are certainly within the corridor.
Yeah, within the corridor.
I want to, before we take the conversation further into the meeting that was held, take a look really quickly at how livestock could work against the environment. When proper practices aren't involved, how does livestock production affect the environment, say for example, deforestation?
Yeah, definitely. I think the Nature Conservancy as a conservation organization basically has the objective of trying to balance the productivity but with conservation. which simply means that we require to implement sustainable regenerative practices within the sector that will minimize the direct impact to our environment. Because one of the major challenges within the sector is that the livestock sector is blamed for a lot of the problem that is occurring within the environment. So I think that by implementing regenerative and sustainable practices or climate smart practices, I think that we can balance that situation between, yes, we need to produce, we need to have give that opportunity to our farmers to improve in their productivity, but doing it in a way that is sustainable.
Yeah.
So at the Nature Conservancy, that's our objective. No, we are bringing together. We are serving as the platform within the region to bring together the major stakeholders. So we are just coordinating the activity, but at the end, it is the sector that are going to be making this decision, and that's why we work very close with the sector. I mean, the Ministry of Agriculture, the Belize Livestock Producer Association, bringing in the academia for the science background, and also the conservation organization within Belize. But most important, we need to take into consideration our producers, because at the end, they are the ones that they're going to be benefit from all of these practices that we're going to be implementing.
Well, we have Bellarmino here with us from the Ministry of Agriculture, Food Security and Enterprise. Talk to us about the collaboration with the ministry.
Thank you very much for this space. Once more, I'm very happy to be here at Channel 5, and we truly appreciate the opportunity to be able to touch the larger public. In essence, indeed, we know that this is a collaborative effort, as you clearly stated, and as Mr. Luciano and Mr. Usher have already highlighted. We know for a fact that confronting major challenges like climate change and the major pressures that are put on our forests, primarily because one of our aims is to duplicate our cattle herd. And if we want to do that, obviously there are pressures to our pristine forests that we have. Now, what we have come to understand deeply is that we know for a fact that in the short to a medium long term, there is no need to cut more forests. But with proper management practices, with proper pasture rotation, with very good genetics, with very much improved grasses, and like I say, in feeding, breeding, management, and sanitation, and taking care of the animals, and taking care of, we can certainly increase our herd without the need to go and cut more forests. So while striking a balance with the growth, with the cattle herd growth, of course, we can do better. We can increase productivity. We can increase competitiveness. But now, what is the catch behind this? We cannot just ask a farmer to do climate smart or conservation practices if we are linking it to the market. At the very end, the one motivating factor that will allow farmers to deeply be receptive and adopt.
They want to know how it will benefit them.
How it will put more money into their pocket, how profitable it is.
Yes.
So another major area here in the collaboration of the Tri-National Roundtable, and by the way, it is being led by Belize because we have a national coverage, we want to ensure that we are able to convince our people that yes, we can do it. And with, like I said, if you do proper pasture rotation, some people are already doing it, and they know that instead of going and cutting more forests, they are duplicating their own cattle farm herd, and that can be done efficiently.
Mr. Usher, what's the industry's view on conservation while expanding production?
Well, it's mixed, and rightly so, in that majority of our productive base is by the Mennonite community. And it's not just them, but the reality is the conventional way of doing cattle production is basically forest was there, I removed forest, I put livestock. It's not like in some other areas where forest was, then coffee became, or banana became, and those things moved, then cattle come in, right? We have always been an expansionary industry, and start from removing forests going into the production area. So it really requires an issue of training, etc. And as you know, within the agriculture sector, we at the technical level, we can talk a whole lot if we want to. But unless those farmers really hear it from another farmer who is doing it and who is succeeding from it, it's going to be hard for them to change. And that's where as well this communication comes in, where farmers are talking about these issues. In the end, the reason why people talk about changes and want to do changes is because it's benefiting them. And in the livestock area, the benefit really, what they are concerned about is how I am reducing costs, or how I am putting a little bit more money in my pocket based on what we are doing. And really, that is the essence of it, and they are seeing that from other areas as well.
I want to understand what are the best practices being presented to the producers when we think of cattle, for example. My understanding is that we have a national herd of about 200,000, and that grows about 2.5% annually, with intentions of that doubling in the next decade. But doing so without expanding on land seems almost impossible. So how are you presenting that to producers, the possibility that exists when we incorporate these other practices?
Well, the whole issue is surrounding silvopastoral systems, but the reality is you can't bring all that is within that to the farmer. He will never adopt all of it at the same time. We have to go step by step, and our approach at the association, and certainly at the ministry as well, is to look at that one item, that one issue that will allow them to see reduction in costs immediately. And one of the part of that system that we immediately push is the issue of the rotation management using the voicing system and electric fences. You might say electric fences, oh, what will happen to the cattle, right? No, but it's a system basically. It's like the child, right?
Yeah.
You tell him, don't touch the fire, still go and touch it, right? But you touch it once,
I think that exists already though, right? The electric fences?
Yeah, it's new to Belize, and what that does, it's part and parcel of the whole rotation management. In Belize, basically, you go and you are passing cattle, you see these large areas where a few cattle are in this large area. What we are doing basically is cutting whatever that large area is, the whole principle is to cut it into 45 parcels, because the grass that is there, which is the feed, takes 45 days to regenerate. And so you put all those cattle that you see in that large area in one of the little ones and have them feed for a day. Then they move and they move and they continue moving for 45 days. By the 45 days, they come back
like
at
a
that
rotation.
spot. The grass is ready for them again. And so that's how you maintain, and that's how you start expanding, right? So then you bring more cattle in on the other spots and so forward. So that 2.5% that you hear about, which is true over the last 10 years, that 2.5% can be transformed to 20%. And in 10 years, we are talking doubling our productive capacity in time.
Yeah, definitely. I think here we are talking about being more efficient.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, more efficient in terms of the use of the land space that we have. Because again, we want to reduce the pressure to the forest. So I think that with the amount of land that we have in Belize for cattle production is going to be enough for us to produce locally, but at the same time take the opportunity that is outside there in the region. And I think that it is where TNC has seen the opportunity to collaborate with the other countries. So during these 3 days that we are going to be gathered here in Belize, we have a representative from Mexico and from Guatemala within the livestock sector. And some of the topics that we are going to be discussing has to do from the productivity component, as what Mr. Osher mentioned in terms of the rotation and then the silvopastoral system. But also, I think that there is a very good opportunity also to touch on the finance component and the marketing. Because at the end, if there is no market where our farmers are going to be selling their produce, then I think there will be a bottleneck within the sector. So we are bringing representatives from the market sector in Guatemala and Mexico so that they can convene at this place and start doing the dialogue at that level. As I mentioned, TNC is going to be just the coordinator, because at the end it is the ministry, it is the BLPA, the sector, along with the sector from Guatemala and Mexico that are going to be doing those decision making. But I think that presently there is a very good opportunity for accessing market in Mexico. There are various companies there, livestock companies in Mexico that are willing to purchase livestock produce from Belize, but this product or produce needs to come from farms that are doing it sustainable, implementing silvopastoral system, rotational grazing, live fencing. I mean, improve but the management and improve of the grasses. So I think again there is the opportunity, but at the end we want to reduce that pressure to the forest, and I think that's the aim for the Nature Conservancy.
What does an investment like this look like for farmers, for producers?
I can't give you an exact figure as to tell you, but the initial capital investment, and this is where your question is very important. How do you get farmers to adopt such technologies, such a regenerative? Because it is not an easy venture. Now, and the initial capital investment is high. Look at it. If you have to go and cut forests, you're required to have to clear the land, to plow the land, to harrow the land, to get the seed, to plant, to get the post. So the initial capital investment is extremely high. So what are we telling the farmers? You don't necessarily at this short to medium term go and cut more forest, but rather if you do proper management, proper paddocks, subdivisions, proper rotation of your cattle among that same land, he knows that he is significantly saving a lot of money and getting into the forest. He knows that. We know of farmers who are already adopting the electric fencing in shipyard, for example, and he knows the benefit. But the initial capital investment is really high. So what we're trying to advocate is, by the modality we're using, is setting strategic model farms in the country of Belize, so that the information, technology, knowledge, innovation, and technologies within the regenerative concept, sustainable livestock cattle farming, can be easily transferred to farmers. We use that as a training tool. Now, what is more efficient though is when you have a farmer doing it, he knows about the figures, and he knows that he has applied the electric fencing. He knows that he's no longer undergrazing, destroying his pasture, plowing and harrowing and planting again, replanting pasture. But with proper management, like I said, he knows how labor intensive it can become. You don't necessarily have to control weeds within, if you had 50 acres, but now you go and cut, you will have to control weeds within 100 acres. But imagine being more efficient, being more productive, at the same time competitive within that same land mass. We aren't saying that we won't probably go and cut forests, but we need to strike a balance.
Yeah.
For example, if the connectivities that are within the region, that's why it is important, the corridors are important from the Belize, Mexico, and Belize. We got to be cognizant that the corridors are important for the flora, fauna, movement, and so forth, because the moment you disrupt, you are affecting your water resource. You may potentially be contaminating aquifers. So this is all about being socially, economically, and environmentally conscious that what we want to do is we don't want to deplete our forests just in the next 5-10 years.
Yeah.
But rather do it smartly. Remember that Belize continues to be more than 50% forest cover, and that in itself, when you look at the maps from higher ups, you will be able to see that most of Belize is covered with forest. And you know how that important place within the hydrological cycle, with oxygen, with biodiversity. So it's striking a balance. We need to maintain and we need to brag about that. Now, how do we use carbon sequestration for us to be able to sell those. So there are markets, there are funding agencies. This will allow us, with proper planning, coordination among the three countries, to mobilize resources to be more productive, efficient, competitive, and environmentally sustainable within the cattle sector.
Does sort of informal trade in cattle between countries create an environment that is conducive to producers adapting this sort of change?
Well, right now as we speak, when you compare our traditional exports, they are under major threats. Apart from climate change, diseases. Our sugarcane, for example, is threatened by the fusarium, and the citrus industry under highly intensive care unit and trying to recover. There's a plan. There has been replanting. But the cattle sector is the one sector right now that is bringing in generating the amount of income that is required. The cattle industry alone, just in the last 3 years, 80 to 100 million being generated going into the farmer's pocket. So, but now on the other hand, they are being blamed for deforestation, and hence the reason we are taking this initiative from a policy standpoint to collectively work together to ensure that what we do will not jeopardize or compromise deforest production of cattle with future generations to come.
So the next couple days, we know 2 more days are left for the sessions. What can we expect from those sessions?
Yeah, we started yesterday. Today is going to be the last session that we're going to be delving in within the program. And today we're going to be touching important component within the livestock sector. I mean, today we have a panel discussion in terms of marketing, taking opportunities within the region. Also the finance component, how to make available resources for our farmers, because farmers can have all the tools, can have all the knowledge
ideas
in
and
terms
the
of implementing, but if they don't have the funds to implement this type of practices, then we're going to also be in a situation that we cannot be able to advance in terms of sustainability. So today we're going to be touching on those 2 major components, marketing and also the finance for our livestock.
Are we potentially including financial institutions in this conversation then?
Yeah, definitely. For Belize, we have a DFC as part of the panel for our country, but also we are bringing from Guatemala and Mexico stakeholders within the marketing and the finance sector for them to have that discussion.
All right.
At the very end, we want to create the enabling, conducive environment for that to happen.
Exactly.
And there are many factors that we have to consider. Production, the volumes, that now certification, who is going to kick in and be receptive and adopt regenerative, sustainable cattle farming. And then the financial component, if you are to get into production, the initial capital investment for you to start up, and it's not an easy venture, but at the very end it pays off. So we see a great potential for improving livelihoods, employment generating employment, just the cattle industry alone. And cattle industry is in the hands of small farmers. 70-80% of our farmers are owning between 1 and 50 heads. So we can see from a policy standpoint that we need to put a lot of emphasis in doing the right modality, the right business ambient. And like I said, the financiers need to be, the donors need to be in, so that we can move strategically and advancing from a more conventional or extensive farming system to a more regenerative, productive and sustainable cattle sector.
Excellent.
All right. Well, gentlemen, we are wrapping up the conversation now. If you have any final thoughts, you can do so.
Okay, I think that this trinational roundtable is a very good opportunity for Belize, specifically the livestock sector, to start doing the transformation. I think we cannot continue to do the same thing that we have been doing for many years. So I think it is time for us to start integrating a lot of these sustainable practices that will allow the livestock sector to move to the next level in terms of sustainability, in terms of consideration of the environment, but most important, providing the enabling condition for our livestock farmers to improve their livelihood.
For me, I think it's important for the farmers and our population to understand that this transformation is really a producer transformation initiative. It's not a top-down approach, but it's more a bottoms-up approach. Yes, we are communicating, and if you note, the communication now starts with everybody, right? It's not just the technical people on top, but producers. And I want to segue into what the producer-centered transformation is that we are speaking about. It says at the heart of the roundtable is a commitment to empowering livestock producers. They are participants who are central to the decision-making process. Working groups led by experienced members will focus on key topics such as market access, financing, biodiversity, policy reform. This bottom-up approach ensures that the transformation is inclusive, practical, and driven by those who live and work in the landscape. And that is very, very important, because this is all about the livestock producers, the livestock community, right? And I just want my people to understand that this is for us, by us, and inclusive for what is the environment and betterment of the environment.
Excellent.
I just want to finalize by stating that we got to be cognizant of by the biodiversity that we have out there, the ecosystem, and the great benefits that it provides to water resources, our land, our fauna. So there's quite a lot of resources, and we cannot just go there and deforest crazily. What I want to say is that the farmers need to understand that, and we're asking them to support the traceability system that we have in Belize, because it is through traceability that we were able to penetrate the markets in Mexico. So the tri-national table clearly brings a greater opportunity for us to collaborate in science-based research. There are many experiences out there in Mexico, in Guatemala, that we may know, we may not potentially know, but by collaborating, by communicating, coordinating activities jointly, I think we will have a broader impact. It is humans who have placed borders, but within fauna, we have to understand that the connectivity, that the balance between production and biodiversity is key if we are to look at ourselves to become food secure, sustainable, and productive in the longer run.
Excellent. All right. Well, gentlemen, before we take another break, I want to include you guys in our motivational moment this morning. This morning's quote comes from Dwayne Johnson, and it reads, "Success isn't always about greatness. It's about consistency. Consistent hard work leads to success. Greatness will come." All right, and that, as we said, is from Dwayne Johnson. At this time now, we take another quick break, but don't go anywhere. When we come back, we have an interesting conversation coming up. Key Cocker leads cannabis legislation awareness campaign.